Alex here with a high conflict child custody video on non-disparagement. This is a term that some judges use. Even if they don't use the term, they still say this. Um, they basically make it clear that they don't want either parent bad-mouthing the other parent in front of the children. The reason why is pretty obvious. It's because children are basically half of each parent, and if you badmouth the other parent in front of them, they feel like half of them is bad. Everyone understands that. The question that I get in my email inbox and sometimes in the comments is, why does my judge not do anything about it? Especially some of the judges who do talk a lot about the importance of non-disparagement. And even those judges will deny motions to hold the other parent in contempt of court and will deny motions to modify custody. A lot of times in the order denying, they'll say something like, shame on you, stop it, or else. But they don't actually do anything. I think that this happens for two different reasons. Within the context of contempt of court, I've already done a video where I talk about it. It's called gotcha litigation. I think with those parents that are trying to hold the other parent in contempt, the court just assumes that a large part of it is wanting to punish the other parent, catch them in a violation, get them thrown in jail or fined. And even if the parent legitimately just wants it to stop and that's their last resort because they haven't been able to get them to stop, the courts just seem to assume that that's what you're trying to do, unless you've brought up like 30 or 40 different instances of it having been done. Not just that you're approaching and that you've caught them in an isolated incident, like they just let it slip or something. And you have some kind of written proof of it, because if it's just testimony, I'm not sure that they're going to be held in contempt of court just for that. Especially since if it's just your testimony, a lot of times the other parent will just file an opposition denying it. It's one thing if they file an opposition admitting it, or just saying that they are not even opposed to the motion. I don't know why they would do that. But it's another thing when they deny it and you don't really have any proof, and the judge just doesn't want to see you back in court over something which, I hate to say it, is actually one of the smaller things to them, no matter how big of a deal they make it out to be in the courtroom, on the bench, when they're telling you, when they're scolding you. When it actually comes to filing a motion for order to show cause, it's considered one of the smallest things that you can bring a motion for order to show cause for. Again, there are some exceptions, and usually it's when a mom tries to hold a father in contempt of court. I talk about this being one of the problems in the video, gender bias. One of the areas where gender bias will bleed through is contempt of court motions, because the court has so much discretion. And a couple of examples is sometimes they'll just do things to a father that they just won't do to a mother. They'll just let the mother get away with. I'm sorry, but that's just what some of them do. I don't think it's right, but I talk about why I think it happens in that video. When it comes to, also take a look at the video contempt of court, because I clarify that it's not enough to show that they violated an order, but you have to show that they violated it on purpose. And so some parents will be able to get away with it by saying it was just one time and it was an accident. Other parents will say that they were, making a statement of fact, like, you're taking forever to graduate from school, which doesn't put you in the best light, but that it isn't the same as saying, you're a piece of crap or something like that to the kids. So there's a few ways that they can also get out of it just on basics, contempt of court principles. Just that alone is yet another way that they can sort of fend off those attacks. The other way, which I talked about, is a modification of custody. In that sense, I would recommend taking a look at the video modification trauma. What I think happens there is, if it's just a few isolated incidents, the court may recognize that the kids are suffering a little bit of trauma because they're seeing you disparaged in front of the other parent, or they're seeing you disparaged by the other parent. But as I mentioned in the video modification trauma, the trauma from modifying physical custody is very real, and it's more substantial, and it outweighs the amount of trauma that they're suffering from you just being disparaged in front of the kids. Again, it's frustrating because, and I explain why this happens in that video, a lot of people do bring issues to the court that they can't prove, but the court thinks to itself, yeah, those things are a problem and it's hurting the kids, but a modification of custody will hurt them more. It'll disrupt their stability. So again, in that video, I don't necessarily say you can't modify custody because of stability. I just say that the issues that you have to bring to the court and prove need to be so bad that the amount of trauma the children will suffer from remaining with that parent is greater than the amount of trauma suffered by breaking up their stable home and moving them to another home. That's all. It's a balancing act. It's a comparative situation. The last thing I want to mention is alienation. Is disparagement alienation? No, it's not. Disparagement is one of the many myriad control mechanisms that an alienator will use, but it alone, all by itself, is not alienation, because alienation is a systematic mechanism that involves emotional torture, psychological torture, abuse, and it's not just one of those things that you're saying bad things about the other parent and so you're alienating them. There's a whole lot more going on. I could go into it in this video, but there's no need because I've done 3 different videos on alienation where I go into all of the details. I would recommend watching Alienation and Abuse, and I would also recommend watching Comparative Alienation. There's another 2 videos at least on alienation where I describe what alienation actually is. It's a whole lot more than saying bad things about the other parent. A whole lot. That's not even 5% of it. And it basically, it's more so controlling the child using extremely traumatic emotional and psychological manipulation tactics than just lying to the child and letting them come to their own conclusion that you're bad. That's not what it is. They're forcing the child to believe that, or else. So anyway, definitely watch those videos if you want to see that. A lot of people get frustrated. They think that alienation is just telling the child a bunch of lies and letting them think you're bad. It's a lot more than that. So for those several reasons, disparagement is just, it's not alienation in and of itself. It's one of the many, many, many different things that is used though. So if you have a problem with alienation, this video is not the solution. There are different videos that explain how to deal with that. And I think with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. But if anyone here has had issues with disparagement, the other parent posting a bunch of negative things on Facebook about him, talking to other people, talking in front of the kids about it, feel free to post in the comments below. Maybe other people will be able to provide some insight, some helpful ideas, or maybe there's just not a whole lot you can do about it by itself, but if you wait and you have other issues that you can bring to the court's attention, it may be one of those things that you can sort of add on there, icing on the cake, as some people say, to sort of enhance another much more serious issue that needs to be addressed by the court anyway. So I think with that being said, I'll end this video and go ahead and post something in the comments below. As I mentioned, I will go ahead and see you guys next time.